I wanna live where it's fall forever. I wanna live where it's fall forever. 'Cause I don't think I'll make it another winter. You wanted to put some reverb, baby. I'm going to show you right now how you can go about getting your vocals to sound like this. It's actually quite easy if you have the right stuff. And the right stuff is very cheap. So if you're on a budget, this is a pretty good method for distorting your vocals. So how I came about figuring this method out to do this was actually by reading about the album Is This It? And the recording of it therein. If I'm recounting it correctly, Julian wanted to have his vocal distorted on the final record as it was in the demos, and they went through various methods of trying to distort the vocal using expensive compressors, expensive mics, combinations therein, etc. As in traditional musician fashion, just didn't have the sound that he wanted. And the sound that he wanted was the sound of his vocals during practice, which apparently was through some kind of small PV amp. I don't know if this is the exact one it was through. Backstage Plus is this model. I took the logo off because the PV logo is lame. Sorry, PV. This is a cool amp, but your logo, I just can't stand it. I think it's a vast improvement over the original logo version of the amp. That's the reason I actually got this amp. My boss had it at his house. He was a metalhead in the 80s, and that's actually where I got my Big Muff from as well. He just didn't want it anymore, and I think I got it from him for like 50 bucks or something. That's the cool thing about these amps is that they're readily available for a very reasonable price. Mainly because they made so many of them, and it's early solid state technology. And I feel like if you look anywhere on Craigslist, if you just type PV in, you will find a smorgasbord of any type of PV, PA head, bass combo, bass head, guitar amp, whatever. I'm actually doing this because I'm working on a new song or a new album, and one of the songs I wanted to get that distorted vocal sound a la The Strokes, a la Interpol. The Killers, I think, do that sometimes. Pretty much any indie rock record where the vocals are in the lower range and have a little edge to them, a little distortion. That's kind of like what I wanted to go for. I like that sound. I feel like that matches my voice and the range, the tenor of my voice. So I started researching ways to do it, and this is a way to do it on the cheap. So basically you just want to get some kind of old PV solid state. This one has a bright switch. This is the saturation, which is a big part of why it's distorted. And this is the post gain. And there's also equalization, which is cool, and reverb if you want to get funky. There's actually a little spring in the back. Yeah, you just gotta get your gain staging how you want it. This really comes down to the saturation knob, at least for this purpose. And warning, I definitely lost some frequency off my hearing when I was messing around with this, because once you take the headphones off, you'll create feedback. And as soon as you take them off, take the cups off your ears, I was in like a veritable feedback zone of destruction. And I'm recovered from it now, but hey, I did it for the sake of recording, something awesome. I just think this is a cool technique, and one that you don't need expensive stuff to do, obviously, because it's a pretty lo-fi technique. These amps are really cool too, because it has this phones jack. But so I just have this split right here, one into the headphones so I could monitor what I was doing, and then one into the camera. This one was going into the camera audio. Same setup you can use for recording into your DAW, into your 4-track. Another question is, what kind of mic should I use? I'm using my Beta 58A. This is the one I use live in my band, Be Cool Cowboy, and just live in general. I like the way that it sounds. Basically a 58, but I guess it has like a different pickup pattern or something. The one with the blue thing on it, whatever. It's supposed to be a little better. It's supposed to be better at combating feedback, which I think it is. So, you can use it in loud settings. It's roadworthy. Just use any mic you got, This doesn't have to be an expensive venture. You can use a 58, a 57. Because again, like you could use some kind of crazy tube condenser that they tried to use in the studio. And obviously that's going to get some distortion. I'm all about doing stuff on the cheap, on the lo-fi. You guys know me. I'm trying to do this in a way that so if you're watching this, all you need to do is get the amp and do this yourself. Over here, I'm using the Tube MP preamp, which I've done a video on in the past. Again, that's one of my go-to things. It's one of my go-to preamps just because it's cheap, cost-effective, sounds cool, has phantom power, plus 20 gain, phase reverse, all things that are useful for all sorts of recording techniques, just not just this. You're gonna need a mic, a preamp to get a line level signal into this guy, and you're gonna need a little amp like this. And like I said, you can probably find one of these online right now for like 50 bucks. And I would recommend getting one because I think in about 10 years, as more of these are taken out of service and thrown out, or, maybe they'll be around forever, maybe because there's so many of them out there. But you might want to pick one up, just saying. And you can find some really cheap ones, and solid state stuff is known to last forever. It's really roadworthy as well. It's not the greatest sound. If you think it sounds good, it is good. I personally dig the sound of this amp. And thank you to Jay, actually, because I was asking him, I said, can I just make this thing into a preamp? preamp or something? Can you build this into, because I just wanted to put it on my recording setup and do other stuff through it, or, you know, split signals and mess with it. He was like, dude, what are you talking about? Just use, that has a phones jack on it. And as Jay always knows my equipment better than I do, yeah, he was right. It has a phones jack, which is surprisingly good and surprisingly effective if you want to practice late at night in your bedroom and not wake up your partner or your family or your downstairs neighbor. So that's pretty cool. Can't do that with a Fender Champ. Another thing I would say to do, and this is just another tip if you're going to be doing something like this, I've used this on a couple other recordings in the past, and one thing that's very useful, actually splitting your vocal signal so that you have a dry signal and the distorted signal. And the reason to do this is just so you have more control over the final sound. Having the vocals so that you can mix in some of the clean onto it, or mix in less of the distortion, or having sections where part of it's a little distorted and the other part of it is like crazy distorted, it's really useful. Grab yourself a cheap PV solid state. Make sure it's got the saturation knob on it.
Don't forget to smash that subscribe button, you nerd. This is Mike from 424recording.com. Godspeed, my friend. See you on the next video.